Hello, and welcome back, or perhaps for the first time, to Black Jade Island. For those of you who don't know, Black Jade is my hard mode island. Hard mode is a special set of rules created by Nintendox to make the game just a little bit more challenging. Isabel reminded me that Samson was moving onto the island. Somehow I had forgotten that had happened. Instead of heading straight for doing my dailies, I decided to work on setting up my new market area, because I demolished the last one to make room for my boardwalk. I needed to set up a temporary one on the beach down here. I'll find a more permanent place for my market some other time. Keena from Pineshire stopped by to grab one of the bug models that I was giving away because I didn't like them. The bug models, not Keena. Keena is fine. While I waited for my next customer, I decided to go and actually do my dailies, starting with the crops. I needed to trash this harvest as well for the same reason as Saturday's harvest. And then I went to make my purchases. Keena had bought something from my Nook shop and I didn't see what it was, but it doesn't matter. They were selling this cute little bear plushie that I bought instantly. I went to make my new shirt, but apparently you can't do that if your gates are open, so I went to shut them, and while I was in the airport I figured that I would go do my chores over on Harv's Island. I did the photo shoot with Reese and Cyrus, got my fortune told, and I didn't feel like buying more hydrangeas today, so I just headed back to my island. I decided to work on the shirt design. For some reason, I drew a little wizard. I'm really not sure either. I made my purchases from the Able sisters. Daisy May was on my island selling turnips for 94 bells each. I decided to buy 600 of them again. I did my stretches. I thought it would be nice to mix some Nook Miles tickets into the mystery bag, so I stopped by the Resident Services building to buy a few of them. Though I no longer need to check my fossils every day, I still want to visit my best friend Brewster. So I headed into the museum and reflexively stopped to talk to Blathers on my way up. Sorry to wake you, my dude, I didn't actually need anything. I got my coffee, I finished up my 2x miles tasks. Lyra from Rosecross came to my island. They are also running hard mode, and you should check them out. I will link to their channel in the description. They took the other Hellbeast bug model off my hands, and then we went on a little tour of Black Jade. It was a little embarrassing since I'm only about halfway through developing the island. The whole back end is a mess aside from Wendy. I mean, Samson's house. I have some ideas for builds outside of villagers' houses, but I'm not really sure where I can fit them in. I might have to demolish that cliff that I've been growing those hybrid flowers on. Actually, now that I'm saying it out loud, I do have some ideas I'll noodle around with over there after I finish my museum build. Speaking of, I really should get on that. Perhaps sometime next week? It was raining in the morning and I have no reason to mess with the space-time continuum today, so I didn't need to water my crops. My shovel broke while I was fixing my flowers, so I went to make a new one, and while I was at it I decided to craft a bunch of other stuff. I really wanted to make this shelf of glowing moss jars, but in order to do that you need like 6 glowing moss jars, and I ran out of pocket space around jar number 3, so I decided to put that one on hold for the time being. Tipper had a thought bubble and she, tragically, has decided to move away from Black Jade. Since it was Monday, Red refreshed his stock of paintings and he was selling a genuine academic painting. Now, I'm like 97% sure that I already have this one. Can he sell duplicate real paintings? That doesn't seem correct. I bought it because why would there be 2 genuine copies? That doesn't make sense. I checked my fortune and almost left the island before remembering that I still had to do the photo shoot with Reese and Cyrus. Label was on my island, so I ran over to initiate a fashion quest, but was intercepted by Eugene, who wanted to give me a birdmobile. I'm pretty sure I already have one of these, but it's the thought that counts. Label wanted me to make a professional outfit and gave me a chef's coat as an example. I don't think the game realized just how many times I heard the phrase "yes chef" last week, so I don't know if it knows how fucking funny it was being. Anyway, I did my best to make an outfit that looked okay. I didn't have a chef's hat for some reason, but I made it work. I did my stretches, decided to fix my shirt because I no longer liked the wizard. I thought sharks only came out after 6, so imagine my surprise when I pulled up a whole whale shark. I was absolutely certain that it was going to be a suckerfish. Apparently, whale sharks can be caught at any time of the day also. I made my purchases. One of my 2x miles tasks was to catch a surgeonfish. I had been stopping to catch every small fish shadow I saw, but so far I'd only come up with a pocket full of horse mackerels. So it was time to take drastic measures. Clam hunting. I dug up about 14 of them to make into bait and used all 14 pieces without any success at all. I did catch a couple of fish that I hadn't found yet, so I made my way over to the museum to donate them before heading up to grab some coffee. The game waited until I had well and truly given up hope of ever catching the surgeonfish before finally giving it to me. I don't know how the game knows these things, but it certainly seems to. And the malice this game holds in its silicon heart is truly something to behold. I finished the day by clearing out my 2x miles tasks. It was raining again this morning. Have any of you guys played Fatal Frame 3? Because the amount of rain we're having is starting to make me worry I'm going to end up in the manner of sleep. I had an embarrassingly difficult time digging up this fossil. On the beach, I found a recipe for the non-angled version of the signpost. I hardly ever use the signpost items. Maybe I'll try to incorporate them into a build at some point. I'm having ideas about my market area, and using signs to point to it might help, especially since I'm planning to have it a little ways away from the airport. Patty flagged me down, and to be honest, I wasn't paying attention to whatever it was she was saying, and somehow I ended up back in my house with Patty. We did the usual things. She gave me a detective's hat. I can't wear the coat that goes with it, but maybe one of these days I'll get ambitious and try to make one myself. We also played high card, low card. I wanted to wait her out, but Patty was showing no signs of wanting to leave. I refused to be held hostage in my own home, so I left. I had gotten so distracted by the idea of doing a fatal frame that I had completely forgotten to actually harvest my crops, so I went to take care of that. I headed out to Harv's Island, took care of the photo shoot, but it turns out that after you do this enough times, Reese decides to throw herself an actual reception. So I invited my favorite villagers to come celebrate with us, and I guess the game wasn't expecting me to put the happy couple over here, because Reese turned to the wall to give her speech. As fun as the party was, I needed it to end so that I could go do the rest of my dailies, starting with getting my fortune told. I headed back to Black Jade to make my purchases. I said my final farewells to Tipper. Samson randomly stopped me to give me a shaved ice maker, which is strange, because I'm not good enough friends with him to give him gifts yet. Mermaid tables were the hot item, so I made 3 and sold them for a frankly unreasonable amount of money. I feel like I'm a Rockefeller. My phone demanded that I check my fossil, so I went to go do that. While I was in there, I went to go give Blathers the academic painting that I had, but he didn't want it. So I ran up to the art gallery, and I did indeed already have one. I can't pretend to understand it, but I guess I'll be putting the real one up in my markets at some point. I got some coffee, finished up my 2x miles tasks, did my stretching. While I was stretching, I noticed Candy had a flea, and I also realized that I hadn't done my NPC quest for the day, and my NPC was CJ. So, a pretty productive stretching session, all things considered. I ran off to find Candy so I could catch that flea off of her. It took me a couple of tries because the game kept thinking that I wanted to talk to her instead. I did eventually get it and then headed off to hunt for CJ. I feel like I've been getting a lot of the catch 5 of any size challenge, which feels wrong to me. I feel like the catch 3 of a certain size ones used to be way more common, but I guess I didn't really pay that much attention to it. Anyway, the first time I catch my line into the ocean, I instantly pulled up a surgeonfish, and I'm mad about it. I finished the challenge, but continued fishing until my pockets were full. And then I sold everything except the bluegills, because I decided to use them to make my model for the day. Then I went to empty out Fish Jail and sold my prisoners to CJ. My phone demanded that I harvest wood, so I decided I would kill 2 birds with 1 stone and harvest my fruit trees with my axe. And that worked great until my axe broke. So I harassed this tree until it gave me enough branches that I could make a new one. Then I went to water my crops and my watering can broke. On my way back to the crops, I saw a butterfly that I caught, and you'll never guess what happened. My net broke. Not a great start to the day. Gulliver was on my island, so I beat him until he woke up. We're all aware of how Gulliver works by now, so can I just get distracted for a moment? Thanks. Look at Samson's shirt. It has the kanji for forest on it, which I think is extremely cool, both because the kanji itself is beautiful, it's one of my favorite kanji, but also because the Japanese name for Animal Crossing is Dobutsu no Mori, or Animal Forest, or at least it was back in the N64 GameCube era. Presumably it still is? What a fun reference that was. I headed over to Harv's Island to do a photo shoot with Reese and Cyrus before getting my fortune told. It was a bad luck with money fortune. I could have cleansed it, but I didn't feel like it, so I didn't. I ran over to make my purchases. No idea what I'm going to do with this climbing wall, but I certainly have one now. When I walked over to the Able sisters, I noticed Patty was inside. I went to talk to her, and she said she was claiming this visit as a work thing for tax purposes. How do taxes work in the Animal Crossing universe? Who do they pay taxes to? To Tom Nook? Do I pay taxes? I don't think so. I have not thus far. Am I committing tax evasion? Or am I exempt from taxes? And is that like a human exclusive thing? Like, how does it work? This is almost as bad as the time that a guy at work told me that in the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Christmas special, Goldar was Jewish, but he's from space. So there's Judaism in space, which is there also other space religions? Are there space Christians? Are there space Catholics? Is there a space pope? And are they a distinct person from the Earth Pope? And if not, why Earth be king of Catholicism? Does Goldar keep space kosher? Do they have different rules for what is or is not kosher in space? Because surely there would be animals out there on an alien planet that have biology that is not accounted for in kashrut as we would know it. Like, what if they're on a bug planet and there are only bugs? Bugs aren't Earth kosher. What are Jewish aliens from the bug planet supposed to eat? It haunts me. I did my stretches, stopped up at the Roost for some coffee. I wandered down to the beach looking for communicator parts, and while I was at it, I fished up a few bugs to turn into meals, because cooking was one of my 2x miles tasks for the day. Once I handed off the parts to Gulliver, I headed into the Resident Services building to demolish that log bridge. It's about time we replace it with something that looks nicer. Unfortunately, I accidentally hit no when he asked me to confirm, and I didn't realize it. I checked out the recycling bin while I was in the Resident Services building, and Tipper was good enough to leave behind her grand piano. Mine now. I finished off the day by clearing out my 2x miles tasks. I had intended to do a villager hunt, but then I forgot. So, I guess we're autofilling Tipper's old plot. Autofill has been good to me in the past. I'm sure it'll be fine this time as well. Thursday was my birthday, so I decided to treat myself by buying the Happy Home Paradise DLC. But before I could do anything with it, Sparrow kidnapped me and dragged me off to his house where Patty and Eugene were waiting for me. They were throwing me a birthday party. What a nice thing for them to do. Unfortunately, none of these villagers are lazy, so I wasn't able to hear the horrifying tale of the birthday clown that is trapped in their walls. As much fun as hanging around at the birthday party was, I needed to get on with the stream. I got whisked away to the airport to talk to Lottie. She asked me to head over to her special vacation home island, but I had chores that I wanted to get done first. I headed up to where Tipper's house used to be, and it turns out that Hans decided to move in. I don't really know who Hans is, and I have no strong opinions of him, other than his house better be white or I'm going to be very upset. I harvested and watered my crops, got very confused about why this log bridge was still there. I was certain I had asked Thomas to take care of that for me. I headed over to Harv's Island to do the photo shoot. Reese asked me to give her a wedding with a lot of flowers. I hope she liked it. I got my fortune told, headed over to Black Jade to make my purchases. The Able sisters were selling a light-up flower crown that I was extremely excited about. I did my stretches. This part of my beach was getting out of control, so I decided to cull some of the coconut trees I had planted there. It is a little more manageable now, I think. Apparently, azaleas don't bloom in the summer, so I decided I was going to swap them out for a summer bush. as soon as I found one that I was happy with. It took me a couple tries because I kept accidentally backing out of it, but I did eventually convince Thomas to kill that bridge I hate dead for me. And then I finished up my 2 times miles tasks. With all of my dailies out of the way, I went to check out the Happy Home Paradise stuff. I've known Nico for about 5 seconds, but I've already decided that I hate him and want to throw him off this pier. Eloise was my first customer. She wanted me to make her a cozy reading area, and I had a lot of fun with this one. I think it came out pretty nice. Although I wasn't able to do anything with the outside yet. Apparently I can go back and fix that later, but I haven't gotten around to it yet. Next up was Gigi. She said that she wanted a green room, but I thought she meant she wanted a greenhouse, which is why I picked her. I wanted to do a cool plant room, but alas, that was not what she wanted. I'm pretty happy with how this came out, all things considered. I don't exactly love the wallpaper, but I didn't have any better options, unfortunately. I decided to limit myself to doing 2 houses because that feels like the sweet spot. 1 house isn't enough, but 3 feels like it would just be tedious to watch. So I took my pokey and bought some furniture before heading back to Black Jade. I spent some time looking for villagers to give my cupcakes to. Yes, even Rocket. Candy was sitting waiting for the KK Slider concert and thus refused to take a cupcake from me. And I could not find Ward Jr. Dude was just nowhere to be found, so I guess he doesn't get one. I headed over to a Cap'n Island. It was another Vine and Moss Island. I feel like that's the only type of Cap'n Island I get anymore. Not that I'm complaining. I love Vine and Moss Islands. The moss furniture is some of my favorite. Speaking of, I found a recipe for this cool ruin archway thingy. I also liberated some plumeria bushes to replace my azaleas with. I headed out to a mystery island as well. It wasn't a very exciting island, but I did catch a great white shark. I think the only shark I haven't caught yet is the tiger shark. Maybe next time I go to a mystery island I'll complete the set. It was finally time for me to redecorate my back bedroom area. I really liked that living room I made with the tatami flooring and decided to just try and recreate it as a bedroom. With the noisiest fan in human history, goodness gracious. It was about time for me to wrap the stream up, so I headed over to my special birthday concert where my villagers and some of the NPCs wrote nice things about me. And then immediately after ending the stream, I realized that I had forgotten to get my coffee from the roost, so I ran over to fix that. I wouldn't be able to live with myself if I left the rooster hanging like that, especially not since he apparently made me a special birthday blend. I started my day by harvesting and watering my crops. The turnip price calculator I was using predicted a large spike in turnip prices Friday morning, but I ended up not being able to play until the afternoon, so I missed it. I did still make a profit, but I would have been better off selling last night if I was just going to miss the spike like I did. Ah well, While I was in the store, I bought this painting they had and headed over to the Able Sisters to make my purchases there. I did the photo shoot with Reese and Cyrus, got my fortune told. Once back on Black Jade, I found candy, and apparently you can still give villagers cupcakes the day after your birthday as well. So I handed one over to her and went hunting for Warts Jr. Once again, I simply could not locate him. Where the heck is he? I know that the suspension bridge is 3 squares wide, so I widened the paths leading up to it so it would match up better. I did my stretches, got some coffee, stopped by Sahara to buy one of every size of rug as well as mystery flooring and wallpaper. Then I headed over to the resident services to get that bridge. Upon further consideration, I decided that I wanted the Zen bridge instead, but that one is 4 tiles wide, not 3. So I unwidened my path so it would be even, because I wasn't about to widen it further. It would just throw off the whole balance of this area. I finally managed to locate Warts Jr. and gave him the cupcake. I'm pretty sure he gave me a shirt I can't wear for my birthday. I wouldn't be as salty about it as I am if it wasn't for how difficult he was to find. I finished off my 2 times miles tasks, and before I called it a day, I decided to go introduce myself to Hans. When I did, he told me that he was from Pond Skull. I know that island. I've had somebody from Pond Skull visit Black Jade, haven't I? I don't remember who it was, though. To the owner of Pond Skull Island, I have your Hans, and there is nothing either of us can do about it. I started my day by becoming very confused about my recent purchase of a park fountain. When did I buy this, and for what purpose? I honestly have no idea. I was really excited to get to the Happy Home Paradise portion of the stream. It's still shiny and new, so I banged out my dailies as fast as I could. I harvested and watered my crops, did my stretches. One of my 2 times miles tasks was to sell a hot item, so I crafted a bunch of shell stools before heading out to Harv's Island so that I could just take care of all the shopping parts of the chores at the same time. I did a photo shoot with Reese and Cyrus, got my fortune told. It was a bad fortune. I was kind of on the fence about it, but my chat seemed to think that I should care enough to have it purified, so I did. Once back on Black Jade, I sold the shell stools for about $4, and then I went on to make my purchases. I cleared out my 2 times miles tasks, and then it was time for the main event. I headed to work. And the first thing the game wanted me to do was to head back to Eloise to take a photo of her house, since that wasn't an option the last time I was there. I still think the house looks pretty good. Once that was taken care of, it was time to make a new house. I did a little informal poll, and we decided that Stu deserved a vacation house. Didn't Stu used to live on Black Jade? And he didn't even say hi to me about it? Rude. I spent a lot of time messing with the landscaping outside. I'm a little iffy on how the rock path came out, but I'm not sure what I could have done to make it look more better-er, you know? I loved that pine cones were an option to decorate, and I threw a couple of those down. Once I was satisfied with how the outside looks, I headed in to make him a little log cabin. I tried to section it off into little rooms, like a kitchen over here, a bedroom area over there. The walls were really hard to decorate. I didn't have any options that stuck out to me. I think I managed to pull something together, and for the most part I am happy with this. I'm a little more iffy on the next house. I had trouble with the outside, I had trouble with the inside. The prompt was to make Curtis an art studio. The island I picked for him was shaped a little weird, so landscaping was a bit of a challenge that I don't really think I met. Inside the house I went with one of the Scenic Vista wallpapers and had Curtis live in a field of flowers where he could be constantly inspired to make paintings. I gave him a little fire hazard as a treat, and hung up a flock of birds because I didn't want to hang things up on the walls to spoil the illusion. I forgot to grab a cup of coffee again, and this time I didn't remember. I'm so sorry, Brewster. I failed you. And with that, all that's left is the KK Slider concert. Unfortunately, it was too early in the day for me to have that happen on stream, so I had to go back and record that bit later on. But, while I have you here, thank you so much for watching. If you liked the video, go ahead and hit the button that tells me so. And if you want to make sure not to miss the next one, please consider subscribing. I stream hard mode every Saturday evening, and it looks like I'm back on track with posting these videos on Sundays as well. I hope to see you in the next one.